Victorian State Liberal MP Richard Riordan. Richard, the Victorian government's war against property investors is bearing fruit. Mum and dad landlords are selling up. We're seeing the pool of rental properties diminish further, and that's seeing rents increase. Data out today shows rents have spiked in the first quarter of 2025, particularly here in Melbourne, where rents have increased by around $15 a week on average. Richard, it's an increase that renters can ill afford in the current environment.
Yes, Rita, thanks for the opportunity. It is crazy here in Victoria. Who'd have thought restrict supply and prices go up? We all know it. It's the most basic law of supply and demand. And here in Victoria, the Victorian government just believes that property investors, people that provide a place for 30 to 40% of the population to live, can just continue to be taxed, and it's not going to have an effect. That's their view. But the market reality is, Rita, the more costs and charges you put on property owners, the more they have to charge in order to get a return on investment. Property has to stop being seen as a cash cow for the broke Victorian state government. And until that happens, the people, the most vulnerable, those renting, are going to continue to pay the price.
Now, Richard, of course, we've seen land tax skyrocket in this state as well. The state government is certainly hooked on property taxes. A lot of mum and dad investors are selling up for that reason. Does the Liberal Party have a policy to address that?
Well, Rita, we will absolutely have a policy that will be designed first and foremost to make housing more affordable, whether you're buying a home or renting a home, when we go to the polls next November. The sad reality for us as a potential future, well, not only potential, but hopefully the next government here in Victoria, is we have two more budgets to get through before we have an opportunity to change government here in Victoria. Now, you'll recall, anyone who was unfortunate enough to look at the budget last year, it was riddled with TBCs, to be confirms. We haven't seen an honest budget produced in Victoria for a long time. We've got another 3 or 4 weeks to see this year's budget. We fully expect TBCs, and with all the uncertainty around the suburban rail loop investment, billions and billions potentially wasted and tied up. But ultimately, the goal is we will need to present some hope and opportunity, not only to property owners, but property renters and first home buyers. And that will have to come in part through a revamp and a rejig of our land tax system here in Victoria. But Rita, the honest truth is it's going to be a hard slog, but we can't put the finishing touches on our priorities for that until we have some understanding of what this budget's going to look like.
Well, we've got the Victorian government pledging to build 800,000 new homes in a 10-year period between 2024 to 2034. But Richard, that's already off to a shaky start. They're already behind the 8 ball, and industry figures are saying that the state's rigid tax regime has a lot to do with that, and housing completions are actually now trending backwards. This is just a simple supply and demand issue at the end of the day, Richard. We've got a lot of people coming into Victoria and we're not having a lot of houses built.
No, Rita, we're not. And that's simply because bringing a block of land to market here in Victoria is just so cost prohibitive. The bulk of Victorians sit between a $400,000 and $800,000 cap on their mortgage. Their capacity to borrow and to take their first home sits roughly in that bandwidth of finance. This government has almost made it impossible. All the talk in recent months of changes to the 20-storey towers and the activity zones and the new planning schemes basically cannot bring a house to market in Victoria, any sort of reasonable home for Victorians, under $1 million. We are just pricing young Victorians out. And in fact, whether you're in Ballarat, Bendigo, Geelong, you name it, outer suburbs of Melbourne, every corner of Victoria now is taxed out of existence when it comes to bringing affordable new homes. A change in government next year, as I said earlier, Rita, the focus has to be on safe, affordable, accessible homes that are practical and available for people. At the end of the day, we have to ask serious questions about what political dynamite this government is building in, whether it's the increase in taxes, whether it's the rules and regulations about energy efficiency and other things that are just not necessarily appropriate for homes here in Victoria. And as a result, the cost is embedded in. And when it's nearly 42% of the cost of a new greenfield home here in Victoria is in taxes and charges, the state has a big role to play in helping make homes more affordable for everybody.
That's it. They've just got to get out of the way, cut some of that regulation, the red tape, the green tape, the black tape, and make it attractive for developers to actually build properties that people want to live in. Now, you've done a bit of detective work, Richard. You've done a bit of digging and uncovered that the Teal candidate for Wannon, Alex Dyson, has received 75% of his money from just 10 families, 9 of them based in Sydney, including Simon Holmes Court. Richard, Sydney is a long way from Warrnambool.
Oh, you're not wrong. The only solution I've got to this, Rita, is I have a sneaking suspicion that these Sydney-siders have confused Lismore and Camperdown in New South Wales with the beautiful townships of Lismore and Camperdown here in Wannon. And it doesn't make much sense that these people, they don't even have a presence here. The fabulously wealthy Simon Holmes Court, Rita, he has a property and probably has many here. He's probably got one in the CBD of Melbourne for business meetings and Climate 200 gatherings. But he doesn't even have a property on our beautiful Great Ocean Road. Now, I'd cut him some slack if he'd actually invested in our community, but he's not, of course. He's not interested in our community. He just knows that our community here in Wannon, Rita, delivers 30% of the affordable gas into the market here in Victoria. We are the backbone of cheap gas in Victoria from Wannon. We supply 30% of Australia's dairy product, our timber industry, all sorts of fabulous things come from gas production here in Wannon. And Mr. Holmes Court and his 9 other friends, including a vet from Sydney, they are hell-bent on shutting that down. And quite frankly, the voters of Wannon have only one choice, backing the Harbour Bridge Brigade and their desire to shut half our industries down, or back a local, and that's the wonderful Dan Tehan.
Now, before you go, the Herald Sun reported earlier this week that there is a plot by Liberal operatives to end Moira Deeming's political career. Multiple candidates are going to be gearing up to challenge her for that number 1 position on the Western Metropolitan Upper House ticket. Richard, this is bewildering. She is one of the most popular, recognisable Liberals in this state. Why can't the Liberal Party just unite behind her instead of trying to undermine her position?
Well, look, Rita, I think it's fair to say all organisations might have a ragtag rump about them that, want to fight a fight you don't need to have. Look, Moira has proven she's a tough campaigner. She's gone to hell and back in recent times. We're sticking with her. She's been fantastic out in Werribee and the west of Melbourne. We all saw the wonderful result we got in the Werribee by-election, of which Moira was front and centre of helping us get. I have no doubt that when push comes to shove sometime next year, if there's still some angry party member that wants to challenge her, good luck to them. They won't have much of a chance. At the end of the day, all of us as pre-selected members can face a challenge. This just sounds like a bit of sour grapes that found its way into the paper, but I don't think too many of us will take it seriously. And we need Moira, like the rest of our team, out every day, selling Brad Batten and putting the word forward that Victoria's got to change.
Richard Riordan, thanks for your time tonight.
Good on you, Rita. Take care.